We have officially reached the dog days of summer. MLB pennant races heating up. Things heating up at training camp for the Chiefs. The punch is thrown. It has been a heat wave this week outside in Kansas City. And all that and more on this episode of the podcast, as well as over the weekend we had with the UFC on ABC, Whittaker versus De Ridder. Going to go over that card and kind of talk about some of those fights, or really the whole card there. So if you are not subscribed already, make sure you hit that subscribe button. I have more film breakdowns on the way, as well as planning to go live a lot through the NFL season. Still trying to work out exactly how I want to do that, but I am planning probably this week a couple of different live streams before the Hall of Fame game, as well as on Saturday night. EDJ is going to be with me, and we are going to have a TKO Saturday night, a little bit of fights, a little bit of wrestling. So stop by and, let us know your thoughts on all things in the sports world. As to start things out with a little bit of MLB. Let's talk about the St. Louis Cardinals and the dive that they have absolutely taken over the last few weeks. Been very up and down, and the team, I think, is at a point where they're going to sell. Me and EDJ have talked about this a lot. Obviously, the Royals are buying in. They re-signed Seth Lugo. Nobody really on the market for the Royals. They've went out and made some deals already. We talked about the Adam Frazier deal, and they are starting to heat up. As EDJ texted me the other night, they are the best offense in baseball since the break. And the first half, couldn't be, more of a different story for the Kansas City Royals. Feels like every time EDJ was getting on here to talk about the Royals, it was something about how the offense wasn't going right. So it is good to see that the Royals have kind of shaped up a lot of their problems offensively. But on the other side of the state with St. Louis Cardinals, I think they're going to be sellers. I think Helsley is going to end up getting dealt probably, and we'll know. I think the deadline is today. I don't think it's on the 31st anymore like it used to be. That's been that way for a few years now. But either way, I mean, kind of what I thought, and I feel like going into the All-Star break kind of had that feeling of, okay, the Cardinals probably going to be sellers. They didn't come out very well after the break. Very tough skid, and it just hasn't been good for the Cardinals. So I'm sure me and EDJ will talk plenty more baseball throughout the week, or coming back next week. So I didn't want to spend too much time on it, but I did want to go over these two moves that the Royals made here in the last few days. Randall Grichuk is officially a Kansas City Royal. He comes over from the Diamondbacks, and if you're a Cardinals fan, you remember Randall Grichuk. He came up with the St. Louis Cardinals. Man, now thinking about it, I mean, maybe mid-2010s, somewhere around 14, 15, somewhere in there. I feel like those few years, there was quite a few Cardinals that came up that, went off. Grichuck, Pescotti comes to mind. The middle infielder now, I can't think of his name, but pretty good. Aledmus Diaz, who came up with the Cardinals as well. Seemed like all those guys kind of went on, and, I mean, role players, but it seemed like Diaz didn't do too hot after leaving the Cardinals. But, again, Randall Grichuk, they get him for Andrew Hoffman, which I think was a pretty good deal. And shout out to EDJ. We talked about this as well. He also agreed. He thought it was a good deal. They didn't have to give up too much. And I think that's where the Royals need to be, is don't give up too much at the deadline. Continue to build for the future. But you also want to get some ancillary pieces to help you out to really make this push to make the playoffs, because you don't want to waste any of Bobby Witt's career. So I think good move for the Royals. And EDJ has stressed enough on this podcast over the last couple of months. The Royals needed some type of help in the outfield. So they do get that in Randall Grichuk. And to go over, get a nice Dell ad. And to go over to Seth Lugo, Kansas City Royals veteran right-handed starting pitcher Seth Lugo has agreed to a 2-year contract extension with a vesting option the team announced on Monday. So a couple of days ago now, the deal is expected to pay $46 million in total for 26 and 27, according to the New York Post. And Lugo at 35 has this season pitched to a 2.95 ERA. 141 ERA plus with 99 strikeouts, 32 unintentional walks in 113 innings. Also had a very good 2024 campaign. who finished as the runner-up to Tarek Skubal of the Tigers in the American League for the Cy Young. And so you look at Seth Lugo has been one of the best deals that the Royals have made in a long time, free agency-wise. And so I did want to talk about these two things. I think the Royals have, tried to help shore up, their chances for the postseason and to make a little bit of a run maybe in the postseason. So we will see with the Royals. Let me know your guys' thoughts about the Kansas City Royals and, where they're headed the rest of this season. I do think this is a playoff team. I do think that they can, get the steam from last year that they had and get it rolling in the second half. And like I said, me and EDJ have talked about it for months on the podcast. Baseball's weird. It just takes to be good enough and to get there and to do something with it. All right, so let's get into Chiefs training camp. It has been extremely hot this week. We had some punches thrown between Josh Simmons and Ashton Gelati, two rookies going at it. And I mean, like in Kansas City, it's been like walking outside and you're walking into an oven. Like it is so hot. The humidity, it's been terrible. And I know the Chiefs have probably been miserable up there in St. Joe over the last few days. But that's what training camp brings. We've had some injuries. This was from a couple of days ago on the 29th from Andy Reid speaking to the media. And I wanted to go over a couple of things on this just because I thought it was also interesting what we're going to start off with the offensive line. We know Kingsley Suamataia is moving to left guard, and he was the perceived starter. But here now we have seen Jaylon Moore at camp working in with the guards as well. And I don't know if it's more of seeing what Jaylon Moore can do because you have him under a bigger contract, or just they really want everybody to be ready to play every position. And I think they learned a lot from last season. So we'll hear what Andy has to say about that.
All the time, but with Jaylon Moore getting in the mix at left guard, is he a legitimate candidate to be a starter?
Yeah, he's working all three of those spots, and really both guards, so he can do either or. We're just working. We need everybody.
Andy, you mentioned Hollywood. Might you be able to elaborate on that with the ankle? How's he seeing you?
I haven't seen him yet, but they took him up. So I don't know right now. I don't think it's too bad, but we'll see. See how it goes.
So Hollywood is, I haven't seen anything that said anything serious has happened with him to talk about the injury. He left with a leg injury yesterday on the 29th. So nothing serious, but he was out of practice today. So was Xavier Worthy. Skyy Moore didn't practice as well as he had left. So they had three different wide receivers go down on Tuesday that did not practice on Wednesday. But I do think, like he said, he's just trying to have everybody ready at every position. And I thought that was pretty interesting that the Chiefs, again, like I said, I think they just learned from last year and said, look, we got to have everybody ready at every position. I mean, Joe Tooney played left tackle in the Super Bowl, which is really just kind of insane when you think of going from guard to tackle in that big of a game, like halfway through the season. Crazy. Now we get a little bit more of an expanded response on the Jaylon Moore situation, kind of having him move around at camp.
Yeah.
And what does it say about Jaylon Moore? I mean, the sense that you are, interested in having him play all.
Oh, he's a good football player. We just only have 5 spots, so you got to try to move people around and make sure they can do everything.
Does he have something he's better at? Is he better inside, outside? I mean, he's shown a lot of.
He's only played outside.
Yeah.
I'd say he's better outside, but he's only played outside.
So you see there, Jaylon Moore's only played on the outside, so he hasn't played the inside. So I do like the fact that they're getting him involved with playing the inside, and it feels like we've kind of seen musical chairs on the Chiefs' offensive line over really most of Patrick Mahomes' career. I think that Patrick Mahomes came in 2017, started for his first year in 2018, and so we did get a little bit of that last guard. Patrick Mahomes did with guys like Eric Fisher, Mitchell Schwartz, Dune Veneri, Tardif, the left guard. So they did have some, solid offensive line play early in Mahomes' career, really for the first couple of years. Then in 2020, of course, you see the Super Bowl against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at Super Bowl 55, where the offensive line falls apart. There's guys that were practice squad guys on that offensive line, and it was a terrible night. We saw the same thing last year against Philadelphia Eagles, where that offensive line just was not ready for that Philadelphia front seven. in general, but the front four really, because, I mean, they didn't have to blitz a whole lot to get pressure on Patrick Mahomes in that game. And Patrick Mahomes kind of went back to his old ways of, really just being very timid in the pocket, not sure what to throw, trying to get rid of the ball quick, and it led to the interceptions in the game. So I think that the Chiefs are just trying to be smart about who and where, what they're putting in place for this season and having everybody ready to play every position. I think it's smart by Andy, but we'll see. I'm interested about this left guard situation now. I did do the Kingsley Suamataia film breakdown. I'll put the playlist in the description for you guys if you guys want to check that out if you have not already. But I was excited to see him at left guard, but now I'm a little bit intrigued to see what we see out of Jaylon Moore and what we see, heading into this first preseason game coming up. Sticking with talking about the offensive line, move on to Kingsley Suamataia from yesterday as well on the 29th. Some of his comments, and I liked everything that he said. I feel like Suamataia, really team player for the Kansas City Chiefs right now, with the Josh Simmons situation, him coming in the year after Suamataia really could be, some type of ego thing or, where it's just, you don't want to see some guy come in and basically take your spot. But I do think that he really is embracing his transition to guard.
Was the biggest benefit for you to play guard in Week 18 in Denver last year?
Man, it was good. Coach A just wanted to throw me in there and see what I could do. It's great being able to be physical off the ball, being at man-to-man contact right off the ball. So just working at it every day. Like I said, you see Trey, best guard, and I got the best center next to me. So I'm trying to be up there with those guys and keep up with them.
Have you ever played guard growing up, or were you always exclusively outside?
No, sir. Yeah, I only play tackle the whole year.
So even there, you see Suamataia, same thing. He's only played the outside. He's only played tackle. He moves to left guard to help out the team. Jaylon Moore, same thing. And I think that everybody is just helping each other. He said earlier in that where, all the guys are just working together, trying to learn the playbook better. Obviously, Josh Simmons trying to learn the playbook for the first time. But I think what he said, too, is that, you got the best center in the league, probably the best right guard in the league next to each other. And now you get to play left guard alongside them, trying to elevate yourself to that spot. I am really excited to see what Kingsley Suamataia can do in 2025 on this offensive line. But also intrigued to see, does Jaylon Moore get some time at left guard? Are they planning to maybe move him in there as the starter or let them battle it out through the preseason for that left guard position? So very intriguing to see. And you also have one of the best offensive line coaches in the league. And Suamataia mentioned Andy Heck. Putting him at left guard in the Broncos game in Week 18 last year to kind of just see what he could do. And he did a pretty good job. We obviously, I reviewed some of the tape from that game. That was the only tape, obviously, on him at left guard. So we're going to get a lot more this year of Suamataia, at least in the preseason. So we'll see how that shapes out. Let me know in the comments below what you guys think about the left guard situation, how you think the offensive line is going to shape out. I know me and EDJ talked about, does Jaylon Moore start in the beginning of the season or does Josh Simmons? I think it's kind of become clear over the last couple of weeks that Josh Simmons is going to be the guy at left tackle. And today we heard from Charles Omenihu. They asked him about going up against Josh Simmons. And so I'm going to play that next.
Very good athlete. He knows his strengths and he plays to them. I think he has a bright future, you know what I'm saying? So he's a guy that's a great athlete. You can see why he's the first-round pick.
I thought that was a really good question and a unique perspective to get on the other side of Josh Simmons with Omenihu that's obviously going up against him. Omenihu, another guy that can kind of, play musical chairs with the defensive positions on the line, whether he, comes out at edge or defensive tackle. You can move Omenihu around. And I think maybe the offensive line trying to get structured like the defensive line is, because it feels like a lot of the guys on the Chiefs defensive line, Spags can kind of, plug and play wherever he wants to, whether it's Omenihu or Jones, even Karlaftis. You've got a lot of guys that you can move around and have different fronts and, weird things to throw at offenses. So I did like that perspective from just seeing Josh Simmons on the other side. And Josh Simmons has just, everything we have seen has looked really, really good from Simmons in camp. So excited to see him out there this preseason and see what we get, because I do think that, it's still a question, does he start immediately? But I think that it's kind of fair to think probably yes. I think it's about a 75% chance, I would say, that Josh Simmons is your week 1 starter in Brazil at left tackle. Unless they want to keep him limited, maybe. I don't know. But, everything has come back good from the injury. So shifting to the other side of that defensive line, somebody that the Chiefs went out and got in Omar Norman-Lott, who I was very high on heading into the draft. I was very happy that the Chiefs ended up getting him. Very good pass rushing defensive tackle that obviously is going to need to work on the run game, but he's been worked in with the ones a lot during training camp. So here's Charles Omenihu talking about Omar Norman-Lott.
Omar has great use of hands, very explosive. I noticed early on that he was able to grab wrists, something that it took me about 3-4 years to be able to do that. And Ashton just is a guy that he's going to go hard. You know exactly what you're going to get from him. He's a guy that just wants to learn, and he's a guy that has a lot of power. So that's something he can use to his advantage as he continues to fill out his game in the league.
Technique that you mentioned with Omar, can you describe the difficulty of maybe grasping that so quickly then?
Yeah, that's just a lot of hand-eye coordination. So that's something that he definitely practiced over in Tennessee, something that they probably teach because, like I said, I think it's just as a rusher, being able to long arm and then grab wrist, grab elbow, take guys' hands off you like that. I think it's something that it's a learned skill, something that's pretty difficult.
And I do think that Omenihu gives a good perspective as well to Omar Norman-Lott, as you can kind of see similarities between the two. As Omenihu came in as a defensive tackle, has been able to move around, and I think Omar Norman-Lott is going to be just like that, where at some point you're going to see him lined up at edge, and same thing as the Chris Jones. His pass rushing skills are they're pretty developed already, right? But the run game is what needs help. So maybe on first downs you don't see Omar Norman-Lott as much, but I do think that he is going to come in and make an immediate impact on this defense and is going to help out a lot with the rotation. We'll see with Gelati. I do like, some of the analytics around Gelati's game, but, we will yet to be seen of what Gelati will be. And then you still have FAU in the mix that, he's had his moments, as well as, Karlaftis now you get locked up for 4 years. Still have Mike Dana. I think the defensive line is going to be exciting and to watch, and I'm very excited to see how they start to shape this out during the preseason and, guys that can make an impact for the season. And so shameless plug one more time, the film breakdowns, that's exactly what I use them for. Players that I think can make a real impact on the team, this upcoming season. I've done now 5, I believe. Rashee Rice, Xavier Worthy are the most recents, doing a couple of the receivers. Also have Jaden Hicks. And I started with Jaylon Moore, actually, looking at his San Francisco 49ers tape from last year. And then Kingsley Suamataia was the number 2 guy that we looked at on tape. So those are all up. I have more to come. George Karlaftis is next. Then after that, I believe it's going to be Leo Chanel. Let me know in the comments below who you want to see on those film breakdowns and who you want me to break down. So for the Kansas City Chiefs, I'm very excited. You've got preseason coming up before too long, and just excited to see football tomorrow night. We've got football, guys. We have the Hall of Fame game tomorrow night, and very excited to see that the Kansas City Chiefs start off Saturday, August 9th, a week from Saturday. They will play the Arizona Cardinals on the road. Then the 15th, they go at Seattle, and then they host the Bears, the final preseason game of the year, August 22nd, and then off to Brazil, September 5th, to meet the Los Angeles Chargers out there. So very excited. Season's getting really close, and luckily for these guys, it's supposed to cool down over the next couple of days, as it's been mid to upper 90s with the humidity and heat index up to over 100 almost every day this week. So we saw the tempers flare. The pads came on Sunday. Let me know what you think about this team. in the comments below. Or, if you are not a Chiefs fan watching this, what's your team going to do this year? I want to know. I'm excited. Like I said, I'm planning on going live before the Hall of Fame game tomorrow night. Just talk some football. Saturday night, me and EDJ are going to go live with a TKO Saturday night. We're going to watch SummerSlam and the fights, kind of just hang out and talk some sports. Last but not least, let's talk about UFC on ABC, Whittaker versus DeRitter. And this card, top to bottom, I felt like it was a pretty solid card. I watched every fight of the night. I didn't watch it live. I was in Omaha over the weekend. A little vacation, a little getaway. Omaha Zoo, pretty cool. Check it out if you get the chance ever. But pretty dope. But getting into these fights, starting off with Martin Buday versus Marcus Buchecha. This fight right here depressed me a little bit. I feel like I've talked about the heavyweight division extensively over the last couple of months between the John Jones situation, Tom Aspinall not having a dancing partner to defend his belt, just how stagnant the division has been after Jones stalled it out for a little over 2 years or around that time frame, having only 2 fights and, one against a guy that shouldn't have been challenging for the belt, and really probably another guy that shouldn't have been challenging for a belt and is going to challenge for another belt. So I'm talking about Ciryl Gane, of course. Check out my Substack, too. I wrote a little piece about that, about the title fight that nobody wants, over on Substack, papashronknows.substack.com. Buchecha, though, UFC debut, BJJ black belt practitioner, and they really hyped up through the broadcast how good Buchecha's game was on the ground. Problem was he could not get the fight to the ground, and by the time that they were on the ground scrambling and wrestling and a little bit and rolling, Buchecha was too tired to do anything, really. He had his moments. I think he had a sweep like late in the 3rd round when he was just, dog tired at that point, which, wasn't going to be able to do much. Buday does a great job, kept it standing, and he just was smart with it. He just hit Buchecha a lot, didn't throw any real haymakers or anything, but he did his job. He gets a unanimous decision victory, and Buday with a 13 rank next to his name. We'll see what he gets next. Moving on to the controversial fight of the night, in the Muhammad Yahya fight with Stephen Wynn. Stephen Wynn, he dropped him 7 times, I believe, in this fight. Let's look at this just to double check, because I think it was 7. UFC record, 6 knockdowns. Okay, it was 6. They counted the first one as a slip. 92 significant strikes. Okay, after number 4, he dropped him 3 or 4 times in the first round, and then I think twice in the second round, something to that effect. Because they didn't go to the 3rd round. It was stopped on the stool after Yaya's eye was just insane. It looked like a bubble underneath his eye, like his orbital and everything. Absolutely destroyed in that fight. Herzog should have stopped it way earlier. But Yahya did have a moment where it looked like in the 2nd round that he could win the fight. I believe, did he drop him? Or he just rocked him? Where'd the drops go? Knockdown? No. So, yeah, Yahya didn't drop him, but Stephen Wynn was obviously rocked early in the 2nd round. So Yahya had his moments, but I do think that fight should have got stopped a lot earlier. Even with him having his moments after that, I just don't think that what's the point, right? I'm always going to be for fighter safety, and I know it sucks as a fighter, not being able to go out on your shield necessarily, but I feel like we really need to make it a priority to normalize throwing in the towel for your guy, because you shouldn't let your guy go out there and get killed like that. I just don't believe in that. But from a fighter perspective, I do get wanting to go out on your shield and be able to fight, have as much of a chance. And Yahya proved it in the 2nd round when he came out and almost dropped Stephen Wynn. He had him badly hurt. But good win, performance of the night bonus for Stephen Wynn in that fight. Elikana gets the victory over Aslan. And this fight, kind of a nothing burger fight. It was pretty boring. The crowd was booing the whole time. 2 guys that were just, I think, too timid to really exchange. Neither one of them wanted to go after it really, and they were both just very respectful of each other's strength, power. I mean, it really wasn't a whole lot going on in this fight. I mean, looking at the stats, Elikana over 3 on his takedowns, 35 significant strikes to 28 throughout 3 rounds. Nothing, 35 total strikes landed to 29. I don't know if that's the actual totals or just the significant strikes, or if they only thrown significant strikes. Either way, like I said, nothing burger fight right there. Amanda Ribas versus Tabitha Ritchie. Tabitha Ritchie employs a great game plan. She kind of got Ribas against the fence and tried to dirty box her while in range. She was really dipping and diving out of range, or in and out of range, with Ribas being, much taller than her. She did a great job, and I think Tabitha Ritchie had a wonderful performance in this fight. Gets a, really good shot on her up against the fence, hits her with an elbow as well, ended up dropping her, finishing the fight. Tabitha Ritchie continuing to improve. Davey Grant, he had a really good bout as well against Damon Blackshear. I think a very good performance. I'd never seen either one of these guys fight, so it was a good introduction to both of them. It was somewhat back and forth, but it was a little too late. 1 of 5 on the takedowns for Blackshear, and the striking was just dominated by Davey Grant in this fight. How about Mulislam Salikov? 41 years of age, gets a 42-second knockout. Performance of the night bonus. I mean, he went over yelling at the table, 41, and only landing 3 strikes. I mean, that overhand was absolutely insane that he landed. Put Carlos Leal to sleep quick. Not too much to talk about this fight, honestly, but great performance by Salikov, getting the win. Bryce Mitchell, he gutted out a win against Said Nurmagomedov, really controlling the fight, as Nurmagomedov really had the advantage standing, but Bryce Mitchell did a great job of nullifying everything and beating him on the ground. And I saw a funny meme. Send your kids to Arkansas 2-3 years. Forget, of course, I'm playing off of the Dagestan meme, where obviously the Dagestanians, they are a different breed of wrestlers out there, and what kind of level they're grappling at. And Bryce Mitchell was able to, fend it off and get a very good, hard-fought unanimous decision in his bantamweight debut. So I'm interested to see what Bryce Mitchell can do against the rest of the division. Where this kind of puts him at in the 135-pound division. We'll see. And what the future holds for Bryce Mitchell. He feels like he can get a title shot, and if he gets another win or so, which I don't see why not. I don't know. 35 hasn't been, the most flooded division with. I don't want to say high-level talent, because they're talented, just no one's really kind of separated himself from the pack. I mean, you have Sandhagen, of course, that I think right now is about the only guy that will obviously challenge Merab next, but off the top of my head, really the only guy that I can think of that is just, he's kind of above everybody else in, like that 1 to 10 range of the challengers, where, we've already seen O'Malley lose twice to Merab. Merab is obviously on his own level at this moment. We'll see if Sandhagen is there. So I am very excited about that title fight. Nikita Krylov versus Bogdan Guskov. This was a great fight, and Guskov did an amazing job setting up the shot that pretty much ended the fight, that set up the ending at least. There late in the first round, 4 minutes, 18 seconds in. Guskov, very impressive performance, I thought, over Krylov. But the way he timed it, because Krylov kind of fainted coming in 2 different times. Then finally he does come in. Guskov gets in, lands a big shot, drops him, and follows up for the finish. Big win for him. Alabayev versus Ochoa. Now, I'm not going to lie, I didn't pay the greatest of close attention to this fight, but Alabayev with a good win in this fight. He gets the control, mainly 7 of 16 on his takedowns, a couple of submission attempts for both of them. Outstriking was Ochoa. I wonder if I can get the control time on here, which is unfortunate because I would like to see the difference in control time. But Almabayov. Had to pronounce that slow. Man, the UFC names, man, they are not easy. Almabayov, though, with a big victory at flyweight, and that is a division that I really am enjoying right now. You got Tatsuro Taira getting ready to fight next weekend against the guy taking the fight on short notice. I don't remember how short, but he's got someone stepping in over there. Joshua Van just had a huge performance over Brandon Royval that's going to get him a title shot against, I can see Pantoja, that I think is going to be a really good fight. So this flyweight division I think is really exciting right now, actually. Clicked on the wrong thing there. So Shara Bullet was next up against Marc-Andre Barrault, and this was a pretty good fight as well. Really, Shara Bullet got tested in this fight. It was the fight of the night, and I think that, Marc-Andre Barrault really came in and gave a good showing, which, I've enjoyed watching him fight in the past. There was maybe 1 or 2 years ago where he had that knockout on that Canadian card, and the crowd just went absolutely berserk. So I was excited to see that he was the guy matched up with Shara Bullet, and we will see what's next for him. But another pretty good fight, something he had to really gut out and did a really good job. So I think that he really handled the adversity well in that fight. And Shara Bullet looks to continue on and move up the middleweight rankings. Petr Yan versus Marcus McGee. This was an interesting fight. It was a unanimous decision for Petr Yan. McGee definitely had his moments, and I think Petr Yan has really got to work on starting better. I think starting quicker, getting first to the punch earlier, because I think there was a lot of moments early in the fight where he kind of started to let McGee get in a rhythm. There was moments in the second round of that as well. McGee, I do think, proved that he deserves to be here at the top of the 135-pound division. So, again, there's a lot of guys that are, are you truly this, upper echelon elite, or where do you fit in this division right now? Petr Yan, I think, is kind of in that boat where he called out for a title shot. I don't know after that performance if I thought it was worthy of a title shot after the Sandhagen fight. I don't know, maybe just because he's kind of beaten everybody else. I think let's go to Petr Yan real quick and just look at his recent fight history. He did get a win over Figgy, did get a win over Sang Yadong. So, I mean, it's possible. Lost to Davashvili back in 2023 before Davashvili got the title shot. I mean, Petr Yan kind of gave two guys or helped two guys on their way to their title shots between Sugar Sean O'Malley and Merab Dvalishvili. But I don't know. I mean, I guess I could see it. I feel like maybe one more. I mean, you get 3 wins in a row against top flight contenders. Although I don't know if Figgy belongs at 35 after seeing him a couple of times. He loses Dion. He loses to Sandhagen as well. I don't know if that is the proper weight class for him. I think 25 might have been better. I don't know what his cut was really like that. But I don't know. Petr Yan just feels like... It feels like when you watch him fight, it's just not the same guy it was a couple of years ago. Where, I mean, Petr Yan was on a tear. I say a couple of years ago, but really a few years ago. I think really since the O'Malley fight, almost. I mean, he had that huge fight against Uriah Faber, where he really hurt him bad in that fight. On his way to the title, I thought definitely he was going to steamroll Aljamain, and if the first fight doesn't go the way it does with the illegal knee, who knows, what we're looking at 135 pounds at this point. Aljo gets the disqualification victory and then beats him in the rematch. Aljo did a great job preparing for Petr Yan in the second fight and won the belt. Or didn't win the belt, he defended it, but in a lot of our eyes, obviously, he won the belt that night officially. But that leaves us for the main event. Bobby Knuckles against Reinier de Ridder, coming off of a huge victory over Bo Nickel, where he made Bo Nickel look like he did not belong in the upper echelon of the middleweight division. So I did like that they gave de Ridder a real test, and Robert Whittaker immediately after gets the main event, a UFC card, the UFC on ABC card, no less. 192 to 70 strikes. I mean, it felt like after the second round when de Ridder got rocked, first of all. Let me look at the knockdowns because, Whittaker was the only one with an actual knockdown in this fight. And that was, I believe, the second round early on. De Ridder works his way back, rocks Whittaker at some point in the second round, I think later in the second round. And, like, from there, it felt like he was kind of just on cruise control of, doing a good job of just beating Robert Whittaker technically. And even on the broadcast, they talked about de Ridder, being the submission guy, and he's going to take everybody down, or he takes everybody down and submits them. And he said that afterwards in the post-fight not conference, but the post-fight interview in the cage, that he thought he was going to take him down and submit him. Robert Whittaker is an absolute gamer, and it was a very good fight, tough fight from Bobby Knuckles, but de Ridder just kind of beat him off of, I think, really just technique. He was smart. I think that de Ridder's fight IQ is very, very high after watching his last two fights and seeing that carry over to the Robert Whittaker fight from the Bo Nickel fight. He was very smart not to get too close to Bo Nickel. That knee that he throws, him just being tall and lanky at middleweight versus some of these guys really gives him a step up. It's a great technique and smart, especially in those situations where, like against Bo Nickel, he's going to go for a takedown. That's what he's looking for. He wants to get you to the ground. And what can I do? You shoot in for a takedown. I meet you with the knee. That is a great equalizer to a takedown attempt. And I think de Ridder did a great job in this fight, just controlling the pace, really. De Ridder fought his fight against Bobby Knuckles out there. And, it's kind of back to the drawing board for Robert Whittaker. And where does he go from here? Is retirement an option at some point soon? I think that it's very possible for him to retire soon, relatively soon. But as I said, that's going to pretty much wrap it up for what I had to talk about today. Leave your comments below, whether it's about MLB, NFL, UFC, whatever you want to hear me talk about next. I know I'll be live this weekend with EDJ, as I said. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and hit that bell for me if you want to stay notified of like when I go live or anything that I post. Also, the film breakdown's coming out. Trying to hit that 500 subscriber mark by the start of the football season. So I'll count it as September 5th with the Chiefs. It is right around the corner, and I do think we can get there. I mean, July has been absolutely amazing for me on the YouTube channel, so I do appreciate everybody that has subscribed, everybody that's enjoying the content. I do greatly appreciate you. Leave a like on the video if you enjoyed it as well. If you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, hit that follow button and subscribe over there. With that being said, boy, Papa Schro is out of here.